In 1991, when the Soviet Union disintegrated, 5 new nations emerged on the world map. 5 countries with a shared history but a remarkably distinct identity. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan and Tajikistan. Together, these countries form what is called Central Asia, the heartland of the Asian continent. The Western world calls them the stans. It's colloquial, also derogatory, a sweeping generalization that ignores the uniqueness of each country. It's a mistake. These countries are distinct and increasingly very important. Russia sees them as its turf. America is engaging with them. China is eyeing them. And India is inviting their leaders as Republic Day chief guests. All 5 of them we gather. Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Central Asia is a region rich in history. It has a blend of identities and ethnicities, a diversity of both scenery and culture. There are shimmering mountains, stunning highlands, dazzling lakes, ancient cities, bustling markets and a hospitable people. Yet for all its uniqueness, Central Asia has taken a very long time to get noticed. Why is that? Historians give many reasons. 2 stand out. The first is the disappearance of the Silk Road. Until the 16th century, Central Asia flourished due to the Silk Road. It was at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. Ideas, trade and people flowed through this region. But with the advent of colonialism, trade routes changed. Faster sea routes between Europe and Asia emerged. Silk Road empires lost power. Clan-based nomadic kingdoms took charge. With little consciousness of their history, they concealed themselves from the world. The second reason was the USSR. In the late 20th century, this region became part of the Soviet Union and was largely shut from the rest of the world. In 1991, after the Soviet Union fell, these 5 states were formed. They all had a common Persian suffix, the stan, a word that simply translates to the land of. Each of the 5 states were named as lands of their dominant ethnic group, just like England, Finland and Poland were. Which ethnic groups are these? The Kazakhs, the Kyrgyz, the Tajiks, the Turkmen and the Uzbeks. Now, to many Westerners, the lands of these people are just exotic bucket list destinations that all sound the same. Like I said, they're not. This is Kazakhstan, the largest country in Central Asia. Its capital is Astana Nur Sultan. It is home to 16 million people. 65% of them are of Kazakh descent. The others belong to 130 other ethnic groups. Then we have Kyrgyzstan, a smaller and more mountainous country, home to 6.4 million people. Bishkek is its capital. The term Kyrgyz literally means we are 40. It refers to 40 clans that once united to defend the land. To the west is Uzbekistan, one of the only 2 double landlocked countries in the world, meaning a landlocked country with neighbors that are also landlocked countries, so double landlocked. Uzbekistan's capital and largest city is Tashkent. A lot of Indians know this city because of India's second Prime Minister, Lal Bahadur Shastri. Go figure why. To the south is Turkmenistan. Its capital and largest city is Ashgabat. This country is known for its grand boulevards, grandiose architecture and state-of-the-art buildings, all of which happen to be made of white marbles. Turkmenistan is also home to the Darvaza gas crater, also known as the gates to hell. Why is that? Because it's been burning ever since it caught fire in an accident in 1971. And finally, we have Tajikistan, a smaller republic with 9.2 million people. Its capital and largest city is Dushanbe, which translates to Monday in Tajik. It gets this name from the fact that it used to be the only market town open on a Monday. Interesting stories. Now, these are all also young countries. They're just 30 years old, yet they're stable states and reasonably developed. They're rich in strategic materials like oil, gas and uranium. They've managed to steer clear of radicalism. Their societies are secular. They have a strong influence of Sufism. Religion is not a central factor in people's lives here. Religious education is not mandatory. Religious extremism is frowned upon. You could say that political Islam is all but non-existent here. This has been the status for 30 years. You could question how they maintain the status quo. You could argue with their style of governance, but what is beyond doubt is their growing significance in today's geopolitical chessboard. Regional and global powers are competing for this turf diplomatically, economically and militarily. You see, after 9/11, Central Asian states became the center of America's logistics network. US and NATO troops were stationed here in at least 3 of the 5 countries. They made them a staging ground for their missions to Afghanistan, Iraq and Syria. The Manas Air Base in Kyrgyzstan alone is said to have processed nearly 5.3 million servicemen in the last few years. That's 98% of all US military personnel involved in the war until 2014. The arrival of the Americans led to a power struggle of sorts. Some see this region as their backyard. Some wanted the natural resources, some wanted clout, and some wanted to keep a check on Islamic terrorism in this region. India was one of these countries. And India, by the way, also has a very long history of engagement with Central Asia. Politically, this ranges from the Kushan Empire of the 3rd century to the Mughal conquest of India in the 16th century. Economically, Central Asian cities like Fargana, Samarkand and Bukhara played an important role in connecting India with China and Europe. And culturally, exchanges also flourished between the two regions, like the spread of Buddhism from India to Central Asia and beyond. But all of that is history. Today, the importance of Central Asia for India is not merely civilizational or historical. It is also geopolitical and economic. India's ties with Central Asian republics range from trade, energy and multilateral cooperation to national security. These ties were reinforced in 2015 when Narendra Modi became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit all 5 Central Asian countries. And since then, a lot of progress has been made, particularly in the field of defense. You see, Central Asia is of great strategic importance to India. It lies between 2 nuclear powers, Russia and China, also at the interface between the Western and Islamic world. It is predominantly Muslim, but also multi-ethnic and secular. This adds a new dimension to India's geostrategic interests. Influence in this region means an upper hand on Pakistan, especially now with the Taliban's resurgence in Afghanistan. Thankfully, the Central Asian republics share these concerns with India. They too want to stop terror from reaching their soil, prevent religious fundamentalism from spilling over, and shield themselves from illicit narcotics trade. Earlier this month, the foreign ministers of all 5 Central Asian countries were in New Delhi for the 3rd India-Central Asia Dialogue. An OIC summit was held in Islamabad on the same day. They all gave it a miss. They sent their delegates instead. And this was by far their biggest message of intent to improve ties with India. That's not all. Next year, 2022, the presidents of all 5 Central Asian republics are expected to be the chief guests for India's 73rd Republic Day celebrations. It's a clear sign of how New Delhi's ties with Central Asia are deepening. The region is at the heart of the Belt and Road Initiative, so Beijing holds a considerable financial clout here. It has invested more than $100 billion in infrastructure projects alone. Then we have trade. In 2018, India's cumulative trade with all 5 Central Asian countries was below $2 billion. For the same period, China's trade was estimated to be at least $60 billion. Beijing is winning them over with checkbooks. Its proximity to the region also helps. India is suffering the tyranny of distance. Pakistan hampers its land connectivity and limits India's room to maneuver. The result is this: many projects do not take off, bilateral trade gets stalled. So given all of these challenges, given such geopolitical cross-currents, it's extremely vital for India to strengthen its ties with Central Asia, to reclaim its shared history with the region and build its strategic depth against Pakistan.